When we see this work for the first time, we might think it is a charming scene. A little girl walks along the edge of a meadow at sunset. She wears a yellow dress, a white bonnet, and in her hands, she holds a bouquet of wildflowers she has just picked. The sky is tinted with pinks and oranges. The field is full of flowers. It is a tender, peaceful image until you look to the right. Walking along the path, right beside the girl, there is a skeletal figure wrapped in rags. It moves forward slowly, leaning on two wooden crutches with a black veil fluttering in the wind behind it, and from its arm hangs a sickle. It is death, and the girl has no idea it is there. Or maybe she does. That is the mystery of this painting. Death and the Girl was painted at the end of the 19th century by a Belgian artist named Frans Van Kuyck. It is a painting with very little documentation. We do not know with certainty the exact year it was created, nor do we know the history of its owners, but that has not stopped it from becoming, in recent years, one of the most shared and commented images on the internet, often presented as a deeply disturbing picture, and when we analyze it carefully, it is understandable why it generates that feeling. Let us think for a moment about how death has been represented throughout the history of art. On this channel, we have already seen several versions: the death that watches life in Klimt's work, the death that plays the violin into Buckland's ear, the medieval death of the danse macabre, dancing away with kings and peasants alike. In almost all of those representations, death is powerful. It is painted as an imposing, active, and dominant force. However, the death in this painting is something completely different. Death here walks with difficulty, leaning on two wooden crutches. Its skeletal body is wrapped in tattered, worn-out clothing. Its posture is hunched, like that of someone exhausted, and instead of chasing the girl, it simply walks beside her at the same pace, like an old traveling companion. Now let us look at the details of the composition. Van Kuyck painted this girl at the brightest point of the scene, with her yellow dress and white bonnet reflecting the last light of the day. We might think she represents life in its purest form, childhood, innocence, the beginning of everything, and she is completely absorbed in her little world, contemplating the flowers she carries in her hands, entirely unaware of what walks beside her. The flowers are perhaps the most unsettling detail in the entire painting. The image invites us to imagine that the girl has spent the afternoon picking flowers from the field, pulling them from the ground where they grew to take them with her, and this is directly related to the sickle the skeleton holds. A sickle is commonly used to cut down what grows. Without showing it explicitly, the artist paints the two figures in this painting doing exactly the same thing. While the girl cuts flowers, death cuts lives, and the flowers the girl holds so tenderly are, in reality, a reminder that every life pulled from its soil, however beautiful, begins to wither at the exact moment it is cut. Finally, there is the sunset. The scene does not take place in broad daylight, nor in the darkness of night. It happens at the exact moment of transition, when the light is fading and the night is approaching, the day coming to an end as a metaphor for life moving, inevitably, toward its own. And now, it is worth talking a little about the artist, because his story adds a completely unexpected layer of mystery to this work. But before doing so, I would like to remind you that if you would like to collect this painting, it is now available in our catalogue. On our website, you will find more than 1,000 carefully selected works, so you can choose your favorites and begin your own art collection. Shipping is free worldwide, and by purchasing from the website, you will be supporting me enormously in continuing to create videos like this every week. As I told you at the beginning of this video, Frans Van Kuyck was a Belgian artist born in 1854 in the city of Antwerp. This man grew up in a family of artists. His grandfather was a painter, his father was a painter, and he himself studied at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in his city, where years later he would become a professor. But Van Kuyck was not only a painter, he was also one of the most important public figures in Antwerp. He was a city councillor, alderman of fine arts, and a member of the boards of several museums. Curiously, and you can tell me if this is a coincidence, Van Kuyck is remembered in Belgium for two things that seem contradictory. On one hand, he was one of the people responsible for establishing Mother's Day in his country, and on the other hand, it was thanks to his initiative that the city of Antwerp acquired the Schoenselhof Cemetery, which remains one of the most important in Belgium to this day. We could say then that the man who painted death walking beside a little girl was the same man who gave his country a holiday to celebrate life, and his city a place to bid farewell to its dead. In fact, this painting could be closely related to the maternal figure. If we look at death in this painting, its figure resembles a feminine presence more than a masculine one, and although we have no context about the true meaning of its presence, we could imagine it as a mother accompanying her daughter along the path of life. As I told you at the beginning, we have absolutely no way of knowing whether this girl is aware that death walks beside her. But let us notice something. The girl shows no sign of fear. On the contrary, she walks calmly, contemplating her flowers with the serenity of someone who feels accompanied rather than pursued. And if we look at death, the black veil fluttering in the wind recalls the mourning veil worn by women of that era. Its hunched posture and crutches evoke a tired old woman, and its head is slightly turned toward the girl, as if watching to make sure she does not stray too far from the path. Under this interpretation, death should be seen not as the end that awaits us, but as a presence that accompanies and watches over us throughout our lives, walking beside us with patience until the moment comes to take us by the hand. And coming from the man who gave his country Mother's Day, that may very well have been the idea. I would love to know if you share this interpretation of the painting, or if you have another way of seeing this work, please share it in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching the video until the end, and I will see you in the next video.